Hey everyone, it's Daz. How's it going? So, I wanted to go ahead and do a video I've been wanting to do now for quite some time about the Polymega. And now that I've moved into the new place, I wanted to go ahead and finally get around to talking about this. So, this will be from the perspective of a product designer. So, I am a graphic designer, professionally trained. I've been in the industry for over 18 years, and for the last, I would say, 5 years or so, I have transitioned into a product design role at my job. So I may not have an entire career from a product designer's perspective. However, I do believe that my previous experience and current experience as a graphic designer lends well to my argument here as well. And I just want to go over some things that just bother me. And if anyone from Playmaji sees this, I really hope you do. And heck, I would love input. I'm on the Polymega Discord, by the way. The guy who runs that is my best friend. So take with that what you will. Anyway, let's move forward. So, overall, my experience with the Polymega has been interesting, to say the least. If you follow the channel for a while, you'll know that I had issues with my first Polymega that I waited to try to get for years because of various problems with the launch of this console. The least of which not being the fact that I originally went ahead and pre-ordered it through Walmart, in which then their deal with Walmart fell through. And since that was through, what was it, World Distribution or whatever the hell it's called, Worldwide Distribution. Um, Yeah, I was one of the very lucky few. Hell, I might actually be the only one who ever actually got their money back from that terrible, terrible company. Playmaji still has not really come forward in a way that makes me feel comfortable as a customer uh, in regards to how bad of a decision that was and how many people they screwed over right off the rip. And I really wish they would. I don't think they care, but there we are. Anyway, moving on. So I waited a couple years past that, and by the time I finally got one, I did not get one of the original launches past the WWD releases just because I was nervous. I had almost been screwed over hundreds of dollars, and I just want to see how it went. I finally felt comfortable enough to pick this up, and yeah, my first console, as I documented on my channel, did not work properly. It had nothing to do with emulation or anything like that. It was clearly a hardware fault. As the system would play a game, essentially as it warmed up, I would get ridiculous amounts of stuttering and audio popping. Um, to the point where it was literally unplayable. It was a mess. This was across all platforms that had nothing to do with how much power is being used. So it's not like it was only a PlayStation thing or a Saturn thing. This would happen with any game, even 2D games on, a Genesis or NES or whatever have you. And that went back. I then got the second one, the replacement, and I actually had to hold off on really testing that for two reasons. Um, Number one, if you're a friend of me, you'll know what's going on. But basically, I had a little help with my library, and I'll just put it that way. And when that came back, I then tried one of my newest modules, the N64 module here, the Ultra module, and yeah, didn't really work very well at all. So I replaced the processor on mine, which I know was risky because technically they could deny my warranty. Um, but I figured at this point, me working on my system is probably better off than them. And I have reasons for that, which I cannot disclose, but let's just put it this way, information came to me from a private party that described the inner workings of what's going on with that company when it comes to uh, refurbished hardware. And yeah, I think I'm better off with my personal abilities of being able to build computers and doing my own shit than relying on them. When I opened up the replacement Polymega, I noticed a criminally small amount of thermal paste to the point where it had hardened. And when I mean hardened, I mean like gum on the bottom of like a park bench that had been there for 10 years sort of hardened. It literally took me chiseling it away to get it off of the cooler. And, also the CPU, but I didn't really care about that because whatever, but I did clean it off. Regardless, I went ahead and put the new processor in, which is the i5 processor of that generation. I can't remember which at this point. I'm sorry. That it takes and runs a lot better. It's not going to be like super fast, but the menus are snappier, and more importantly, it can actually do N64 emulation now. In regards to emulation, there is no documentation unless you go online and you dive into forums or discords or whatever have you as far as how this is supposed to work. And I don't personally feel that that's acceptable. This is not uh, emulators on a PC where it's implied that you're supposed to have a technical know how, which I do, but still, this is a consumer device. This is something that was, at least initially, designed to be at a Walmart. And there's nothing out there that says that this has to pull shaders that are online in order for games to run properly, which it does. So when I initially first tested my N64 module with the new processor, I was very disappointed that the emulation wasn't at full speed, that there were all sorts of issues to the point where, at least for me personally, it was unplayable. What I realized is that since I hadn't set up my Wi Fi for my new network here in our new home, it wasn't pulling the internet, so it wasn't pulling those servers for the shaders. Once I did that, now emulation is perfect. Is that great? Sure, yes, but again, these are steps that I should not have to go through. So that's been where I'm at so far as the workability of the system itself. So, for anyone who was curious how that ended up, it took me two consoles, a replacement processor. Um, I actually think that the terrible thermal paste job that they did might have actually contributed to the first system's downfall as well. And considering they refurbished their systems in house by a temporary employee, essentially, um, kind of makes me wonder if maybe all the refurbs were done that poorly. Maybe the person who was doing the refurbishment didn't know what they were doing. I have no idea. Also, it's not guaranteed that every single system that was refurbished would need a new CPU, so maybe some were done from the factory and some weren't. All things to consider when you're thinking about buying a system, even if it's new, because again, that could have been from the factory and it could have been a terrible job. I really don't know. Just food for thought. Moving on. Past the system itself, I want to talk about the separate hardware that you get. Now, they're running a Christmas sale right now where well, not all of them, some of the original modules, like the NES or the Genesis, for example, which were the last two I just got, um, they are discounted. So for me, those were the last ones I cared about. I know there's technically a sixth module, the Atari module. I don't like Atari. Sorry if that offends anybody. I was born in 85, so like that wasn't like my world, man. I'm sorry. And I'm not saying that there aren't advantages to that, but with that being, I believe the most expensive module, it's just not worth it for me. I'm not going to buy any of those games. I don't really care. That said, these are all now the modules I ever wanted, so I have them all. And throughout my experience owning this console, it's been largely inconsistent. So, from a product designer's standpoint, I don't feel like whoever's working on this hardware is communicating with potentially, I'm assuming, other people who are also working on the hardware. I know for a fact that they've gone through multiple people in design roles, so maybe that's the problem. Uh, or it could be that the two guys who are running this company just don't care. I really don't know. And that, as far as inside information, I don't have a clue when it comes to that sort of stuff. So take that with a grain of salt. This is me guessing. But there's just little clues that things are not right. So I'll give you a simple example. This is a NES module. This is a Super Nintendo module. This is a Genesis module. This is a PC Engine TurboGrafx 16 module. And this is a Nintendo 64 module. Can you see any glaring discrepancy? There's one that stands out. Yeah, the 64 module doesn't have numbers on the control ports. And before anyone tries to say, well, maybe it's because the 64 didn't have it, no, the 64 actually had little dimples. 1, 2 dimples, 3 dimples, 4 dimples. Which, as far as I'm concerned, is a numbering system. So someone completely forgot that. This is one of many examples that I'm going to be showing in which there's just large inconsistencies. The Gen 1 controller, which I do not have, looked more akin to this as far as shape. But apparently there are major problems with this. I have this one here for a reason, by the way, and I'll get to that. And so they released this Gen 2 version of the controller. This is the one that I got with my system. Now, again, from a product design standpoint, there's a few things here that bother the piss out of me. Okay, just as a former reference, the company that manufactured this controller is the same company that manufactured this controller. This is why I have this here. This is a GameSir controller. This is technically a GameSir controller. They didn't exactly pull out all the stops with this, and considering the price of the hardware, I find that really insulting. Number one, if you look here, from the 64 to the Super Nintendo to the... oh, that's the PC Engine, sorry. Oh, that's a 64. You get my point. All the cords look the same. They're all braided, okay? To NES, Genesis, you get my point. All the cables are braided, black braided cables. Your main controller is rubber. Now, I know that that's a minor issue, but again, it's something that's not consistent. Number two, there's a coloring scheme here that you might have noticed. The primary color, as you can see, is blue, with the secondary color being orange, the third yellow, and then if there's a fourth, then it's pink. So you can see that here, primary, secondary. Primary, secondary, third, fourth. Primary, secondary, third, fourth. Primary, secondary, third, fourth. Primary, secondary, third. Okay? It's always the same colors. That ties the system in together. Unlike the Gen 1 controller, there's no colors on this controller. This feels visually incredibly cheap. Like, maybe I'm nitpicking here, but like, seriously, as a product designer, you have these same buttons from different manufacturers, I might add, because the same manufacturer made that, did not make that, and did not, different people, okay? But somehow they got across that they wanted all the buttons to look like this. These are engraved, colorless, and have a completely different feel. And what I mean by that is all of these, irregardless of quality, and I'll get into that in a second, all feel the same. The plastics feel the same. This feels like a hollow Chinese toy. Now, it plays well. It is a technically competent controller, more so than some of these, and I'll get to that in a second. But it is a very crappy feeling controller. Visually, it does not look like it matches this family of controllers at all. And even down to little things, okay, so like you have this, plastic wire, rubber wire. It's not even USB-C, if I can do this one handed. Like, what year is this, man? Does this belong to like a PlayStation 3? Like, what's going on here? It's just, it's junk. It's absolute junk. And before you go and go, oh, well, it's a wireless controller, so it's okay. The wireless module is not built into the system, so if you want it to look clean, you're going to have this giant USB looking stick poking out the front of the system just to make that thing wireless, which I think looks stupid. And my setup is right there in front of me, so I don't need wireless. And considering all the other controllers aren't wireless, why would I make that one wireless when I'm already dealing with wires across the board here? So I just keep it wired. I think that makes more sense. Now, the reason why I bring this one up is same company, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and illustrate something here. If they wanted to make sense of this and keep everything wired, which, regardless of what you feel is proper or not, some people think the latency, that's a good idea. Some people want distance from the couch, and it's a bad idea. It doesn't really matter. This is the choice that they went with. That's all I'm trying to say. Keep it wired. This is a wired controller. That does not come out. Okay? They could have made this in black. Clearly, the manufacturer is capable of making glossy, non-engraved buttons, so they could have made something just like that. The D-pad on this is like a bajillion times better. You can actually roll. It's actually, I'm going to tell you the price here in a second, and you guys are going to be very surprised, but this is one of the best controllers I've used as of late, and that includes Nintendo Switch 2 Pro Controller, various PC controllers, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying this is as feature rich, but for the money, this is a really, really good choice. This has Hall effect triggers and joysticks, has rumble, and it feels really, really good. There's a certain weight and texture to this that just feels amazing. The buttons are nice and snappy, and the membranes feel really good. There's no rattle at all. It's a lovely controller. I use this to play PC games like Arc Raiders, and I feel like this is by far and large my preferred way to play any game right now. This was $15 on Amazon. Why on a console that's this expensive, with these expensive modules, are you giving me something that feels so bad and looks so bad that it's being outclassed in literally every way, from function, from the type of joysticks and the type of D-pad, to the type of plastics, to the type of membranes, to everything, to the freaking way that it control, like the wire goes into the controller, everything. Why are you being outclassed by a $15 controller by the same company? Moving on, and this is where it starts getting rather ugly. Um, the D-pads. Oh God. Okay, so there's two types of D-pads in the world, and I know that there's technically way more, but just to boil it down to very, very, very basics, there's D-pads that rock, and there's D-pads that don't have a center ball here and go flat. That means that there's really no rocking happening, and if you want to go like diagonals back and forth, good luck, because basically as far as the console is concerned, everything's being pressed down at once. And even if it figures out that it's here, it's not very accurate because you're never going to be able to separate like left and right. Both of these are pressed down. Even if I'm down here, right is pressed, and even if I'm down here, down is pressed. And you're probably thinking, well, that's a really terrible, terrible design choice. And yes, yes, it is. But the problem that I have is that it's not consistent. If you look at the 64 controller, for example, there's a ball in the center, and it actually pivots to the point where I use the 64 controller for almost every console. I know that doesn't make any sense. Hear me out. Part of it is because I'm lazy and changing out controllers is just kind of a pain in the ass sometimes when you're hopping from system to system. Technically, it's a 6-button layout. So technically, it can act like a Genesis or a Saturn pad. Technically. It's not the best way to play, mind you, but in a pinch, it's actually not bad. And more importantly, it's because the D-pad, while small, because it's based on the Hori style pad from Japan for the 64, the D-pad's actually quite workable and quite nice. This is kind of hollow feeling, a little cheap, but it's a fine joystick. It works better than a 64 joystick. The triggers feel good, kinda. I'll get into that in a second. The rear ones are perfect. Digital triggers, okay? They click. No analog, as it shouldn't have, which that's another point of contention. Why are you putting analog triggers on your main controller on a system that houses no analog trigger consoles? The system will never be able to play Dreamcast because you're cheap. You didn't commission someone to make a proper controller that actually worked within the confines of what your system is capable of doing, and you put some $2 piece of shit out with your expensive console. And it's not appreciated. Sorry. I'm not expecting the world here. I'm just expecting competency. And like I said, as a product designer who has to not only design everything, not only get things approved, not only go over my own work and proof things, have other people proof things, but then, get proofs back from China, approve those proofs, those samples from China. I send my spec sheets to China. There's a whole design process when it comes to everything. Like, it's almost impossible that this stuff happened without them knowing. If you're familiar with that world, you would know that it literally is almost impossible for multiple mistakes of this caliber to happen without someone signing off with it and actually being okay with it and wanting it. So, this controller, good. This controller, phenomenal actually. The grips on the back make this probably one of the more comfortable Genesis controllers I've ever held in my life. Buttons feel good. It's a rather thick, chonky controller, which is a little different than most Sega controllers, which are a bit thinner. D-pad is great. I actually quite like using this. I really do recommend this if you're going for controllers, because these are technically like original pinned controllers, so you can use these on original consoles. Or if you have like an analog 3D and you want a proper 64 controller, you can technically go buy this and it'll even match your black system. You get my point. Good controller. These three, however, are absolute dog shit. To the point where I literally can't use them. Flat. 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 This one of these three is one of the better ones because it does have a little bit of pivot, but it just deflates. It's a nasty feel and it doesn't rock. I can really work and maybe get a little bit of rock, but compared to the Genesis and the 64 ones, it's not good. It's just not good. Okay, this is literally unusable. There's no movement. I'm going from from right to down right now. There's no movement into this D-pad whatsoever. Same thing with the NES one. This one is literally disposable. I might as well just throw these away. I won't, obviously, but like I can't use them, which is really sad because the PC Engine one in particular would have been really nice because you have the turbo switches, which is not something you can really emulate very easily on a standard pad, and such a bummer. I don't know if there's a way to mod these. I've not opened them up yet. They look like they're pretty easy to open up, so maybe I can pull parts from another controller that's similar to it and put one in if there's a spot for it. I don't know. But I'm just giving you a heads up. And then, just as another thing I'm just noticing here, once again, from a product designer point of view, this stuff screams out at me. Just like it makes my skin crawl. You have this little lined element that they like to put. Okay, you got it here, you got it here, you got it here, you got it here, and even the lowly piece of crap included controller that has analog triggers feels like it's made of Chinese plastic melted down milk cartons and has no color on it. Has it? Did the Super Nintendo just like not like get what it needs here? You put it here. Why? Button area? Button area? Button area? Button area? Button area. I don't see lines in the button area, but here you put it here. It's just really, really annoying. Even down to the grips on the back are all different shapes. These things don't look like they were designed by the same hands. And I understand people come and go in companies, but you need to have a design language from fonts to colors to logos to design cues to shapes to materials used like D-pads and membranes and plastics, and it's so very frustrating. And I see these guys. It's like the Christmas sale they ran. The main image on their website, which by the way, there's no social promotion really. There's no display ads that they're pushing out through Shopify, nothing. Okay, so the world does not know this thing exists. This is literally a dead system at this point. Outside of the fact that they keep making modules and games for it, no one's really buying it. Number one, and number two, they can't buy it because it's often not even in stock. So it's just a dead console. But they didn't advertise a sale. On the main website, they have an image of one of their Polymega CD games. It's like a compilation disc, basically, right? And it has a big bow on it, big Christmas bow, and it implies that there's a sale. If you go in, the only two things that appear that are on sale are the Gen 1 controller that actually has color on it of this, and the deluxe bundle, which basically is the system with all these main modules, both of which are sold out, both of which have been sold out, and those are the only two things that look like they're on sale. But that's actually not the case. The NES and Genesis module, for examples, were on sale. A pretty decent discount, I might add. You would never know it, though. The only way to tell what is on sale is to put it in your cart. And you can't say, oh, it's because of the way they made the website, because the discounts appear for the Gen 1 controller in the bundle. What are you doing? So I literally, just to know what the fuck was on sale, I literally had to put every single frickin' Polymega collection game in my cart, every module in my cart, every controller in my cart, every light gun, every stupid fucking thing that they sell in my cart, and just to see. That is not how you run a company. So it's like they mess big box up. As someone who, by the way, the whole reason why the lights are on in my company is because we sell to Walmart. There's a way to deal with Walmart, and there's a way to not deal with Walmart. And the way that they dealt with Walmart was the way that you don't. I don't know where the hell they thought they were coming from but holy crap, they botched that deal very thoroughly. Uh, I think they think that purchasing orders work differently from Walmart than reality, i.e., they don't give you money until the stuff is sold. They don't just give you money because you hand them 500,000 units and then you just walk away and you think that you made money. Selling to Walmart can be incredibly risky because you're giving them stock, and at any point in time, without really consulting you, they can roll back prices, which, by the way, you pay for. You pay for that discount. And so if your margins aren't good enough, you're losing money. And then if they decide that they're just not going to have uh, your product on the store shelves anymore, you have to buy it back, which you'll be definitely losing money there. There's little signs. It's like they're an LLC, so they're clearly not morons. They've set the company up properly, but then they won't take out any debt to make this what it should be and take out some loans so they can afford to make hardware, so they can afford to sell things, so they can afford to go forward in a proper direction. And like I said, these little things from a consumer point of view, and these little things from my product designer world, these are really uncomfortable clues that the company behind this thing is not efficient, does not know what they're doing, and is not probably in a good state. This is a premium product. You're asking, I mean, at this point, it's approaching nearly $1,000, if not over that, for the modules, the system, and then maybe a light gun. I think that would be probably over $1,000 at this point. And this is what you ship me. This piece of shit. Like this is something that you would see like on AliExpress, and I wouldn't buy it because I have this on Amazon for $15. This is I can't even use these controllers, man. And here's the thing, I know what you're gonna say, well just go ahead and buy a real NES and a real I shouldn't have to. I paid for these. And then from a designer point of view, okay, so let's just say I get a real Super Nintendo controller, a real PC Engine controller, and a real NES controller. Now they don't match. Which isn't this the whole point of making them visually look like this? Is that I don't need, although I can have real hardware, and if I just want to rely on this stuff, I have everything matching, and I know that they want me to buy their crap because they sell the controllers by themselves. Which means that in a perfect world, what they want me to get is 4 of these, 2 of these, 2 of these, 2 of these, 2 of these. I It pains me to say this because, like, on paper, I think from a functionality point of view, it's a really nice system, especially if you have a collection of games. You can't ROM dump on this thing, so it's not the best for that. But I mean, you can do that with disc-based games like PlayStation and Saturn. So I'll just put that out there. And especially for Saturn, it's a great way to play. Especially if you have the Retrobit Saturn controller, which I didn't show here because it doesn't really fit in with all this, but I use that as a USB controller, plugs into the system, works great, feels just like the original. Um, it's really good for stuff like that. It does a really good job with 2D and 3D games once to get things situated, but if I was not technically minded and I bought this because I didn't want to emulate on a PC, I would never have been able to go ahead and get past the CPU problem. I wouldn't even know it was a CPU problem. And I would have wanted my money back for the 64 module because I would never have understood what the hell was going on between the CPU not being good enough to render those things properly and then the whole shader thing. Because frankly speaking, let's be honest, going online on this console is literally pointless. There's no digital storefront, there's no online gameplay, things that you would expect would have come from a system like this, things that were, I believe, promised in the beginning, which is the whole point of a modern system that plays classic games, is that technically speaking, why can't I go online and play my friend in Mario Kart 64 using my Polymega and my Ultra module and it act like he's player 2 and I'm player 1? So from a consumer's perspective, knowing that there's no online, why would I ever set it up with my Wi-Fi? And why would I assume that the Wi-Fi is necessary to play cartridge-based games? It's dumb. There's nothing in the manual about that. There's no nothing. There's no nothing. I, it's an aggravating experience because they're so close. I am not trying to rip this company to shreds. I, they are so close to having something really special. But I just don't think they care. I think the people who are running this company are the type of people who just want to sit and program all day. And the messy side, the uncomfortable side, the stressful side of running a business is just not their cup of tea. And so long as it works, they fart it out the door and they pray. And you know what, man? We deserve better than that. Anyway, Des out.